Yeah, Supervisor Ness is here.
I don't see his picture.
He has a BN. He doesn't have his picture on.
Oh, he had it on just, he's got his picture on that I see.
I don't see it.
I see him right after Scott.
That's where I see him too.
Yep, there he is. If you scroll through, he's in there.
I'm here.
We found you.
I'm in. Testing 1, 2. Can anybody hear me?
We hear you, Mark.
I still don't see Supervisor Ness. I don't see Supervisor Ness. Is he in person or is he at home?
He's at home. If you look, he's right next to Scott, between Scott and Megan on the list.
And Megan Wallendahl. She is in there.
She's coming on. She just got it figured out, she said. First time.
That's all right, Megan. We've been using that excuse right along. It's hard.
There, I see Supervisor Ness.
Still don't see him.
There's Amber.
Congratulations, Pete.
Yeah, I see them all. Thank you, Bob.
Still don't see Supervisor Ness.
Pete, can you hear me?
Now I
I
see
can hear you
him.
fine.
He's next to me.
Okay.
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 And he is remote.
Okay.
Remote. Okay. I think I got everybody.
Okay. It's 6 o'clock. We'll call the meeting to order. Let me get back to my page here. Was the meeting properly announced?
Yes.
Okay. Please rise for a moment of silence and the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God,
Indivisible.
liberty and justice for all. Okay, clerk is taking roll call by video, I believe, and everyone is present.
20 present.
Okay. The agenda is before you that was sent out. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
Supervisor Grabarski. So moved. Or Grabarski. I'll second Grabarski's.
Okay. Motion by Supervisor Grabarski, second by Supervisor Hickether. Any discussion or questions on the agenda? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye and raise their hands.
Aye.
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 Against? The agenda is approved. We'll move on then to the approval of the August 18th County Board minutes. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Supervisor Hamburg. Supervisor Hamburg, second by Supervisor Morgan. Any discussion or questions on the minutes? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye and raise a hand.
Aye.
Aye. Against? The minutes are approved. Clerk, please read the announcement of meetings.
Announcement of meetings, report of supervisors' claims read by the county clerk, and appoint 6 supervisors to approve claims. Zielinski, Shafee, Allen, Bork, Baroud, and Carlson. Allen, 240, Bork, 143, Carlson, 236.80, Edwards, 185, Gilner, 366.25, Grabarski, 223, Hamburg, 112.20, Hickathur 80, Morgan 280.25, Ness 40, RPs 120, SPs 188.75, Pizzolini 166, Paler 178.43, Quick 168.20, Shapey 101.86, West 420, Zelinski 120, Bankowski 63, David 40, Harvey Beaversdorf 63, Matsky 40, Olson Martz 40, BPs 40, Theme 52.65, Townsend 40, Wah 40, Worth 68.75, total 3,857.14.
Thank you. We have no claims or no correspondence. Next, we'll move on to appointments. If there's no objections, we would, I'd like to take all the appointments at one.
Pease will move to take all the appointments as noted.
Edwards,
Okay.
second.
Okay, we got that motion in a second.
Who was the second?
Edwards, Supervisor Edwards.
Thank you.
Okay, so if the clerk would read the appointments, then.
Appoint Donna Turcani to replace Tom Melter and Linda Rokel to replace Sharon Johnson on the Aging Advisory Committee. Appoint Dana Cease to replace Rachel Kostler as the Farm Service Agency representative for Land and Water and UW Extension. Appoint Jerry Paler to replace Florence Johnson on the Solid Waste Committee. Appoint Megan Wallendahl to replace Florence Johnson on the Land and Water and UW Extension Committee, CDBG, and the Patrick's Lake District.
Okay. So we have those appointments, and unless I'm out of order, you made that. Now the motion, I wasn't really looking for a motion for to take them all as one. I was looking for an objection if there wasn't any. So still Supervisor Pease.
Yes.
You're making a motion for approval, right? Right. To approve them all. And second, Morgan was second. So otherwise, Hamburg, question?
Edwards is second.
Oh, Edwards, right. Did Supervisor Hamburg have a question? No.
I was going to second it.
Okay. Any other discussion or questions? And I'm always waiting a little bit, so if the clerk can see some of the people visually, I can't see them all. So, okay, seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye and raise of hands.
Aye.
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 Against? Appointments are approved. We have no unfinished business. Reports. Derek Smith submitted his report.
I am on the phone if anybody has any questions.
Okay. Any questions?
This is Edwards. I have one comment question.
Go ahead, Supervisor Edwards.
In your letter, Derek. Okay. In your letter, Derek, you would mention that university is looking at child care co-op, and then you also have that the YMCA is going to finally be breaking ground and hopefully open in the spring. And I didn't know if there was some way that you could get the two of them together, because some of the Ys are offering child care.
That's a great question. And actually, I just talked to the CEO of the Y about this last Tuesday. So their goal right now is to, after that is open, they're looking at this not only here, but in many communities. Their first sort of expansion would be a full-time child care center. So yes, we have talked about it. When I speak with the professor from the university project, I also will talk to her in her class about that.
Thank you.
Derek, this is Pete. Can I ask a question? My understanding in talking to Brett, he said that initially the child care was for members, that they hoped to expand it, but he indicated at that time that it was child care for members who were coming in to use the facilities.
That is correct. So initially it will be childcare, but it's not daycare. It's if you want to go work out, or if you have a meeting there and you need to drop off a youngster, there will be a place for them, and then, you know, somebody to supervise them while you're there working out or for your meeting. But it won't be, initially, it will not be a daycare where people can bring their kids. It will be for members who are there for something else that have to bring a child with them. That's correct.
Thanks for clarifying that.
Yeah, another,
Go away on yours.
Derek?
Yeah.
No. Oh, Supervisor Grabarski can't hear you, so.
Got it.
Okay. Any other questions for Derek? Thank you, Derek.
Thank you.
We'll move on then to the county manager's report.
All right, hello everyone. Everybody should have a copy of my report that was on the agenda. We did make it to almost all the committee meetings. Still working through the COVID plan. We coordinated supervisor training for staff again with Studer. We have another round of training that'll be coming up here, I believe next week or the week after. So we're still on pace to get the evaluation process implemented on January 1st, which was the goal. And is also consistent with the pay plan being instituted as part of the budget. We're still on track with that. We're slowly whittling our way down to that. A lot of conference calls about COVID, obviously. We'll have Leah give an update here. After I get through my report, we'll have Leah kind of summarize what's been going on. You've seen multiple notices go out about various events or locations in the county where we're seeing outbreaks. So I'll let her talk a little bit more about that. One thing that was done, and I have linked in here, is payroll withholding actions. President Trump on August 8th signed it wasn't exactly executive order, as a memorandum directing the Treasury Secretary to stop withholding Social Security. So the 6.12 or 6.2% that we're required to withhold from employees for their portion of their Social Security contribution. He ordered the Treasury Secretary to stop collecting that with the belief that that would then require all employers nationwide to stop collecting that. As you'll see in Von Briesen's legal guidance, that's not really the case. There's a lot of questions whether the president even has the authority to do something like this. So I know I'm not aware of any counties in the state of Wisconsin that are actually following this. The unfortunate part of this action, if Congress doesn't agree to it later on, the employees would have to pay it all back starting January 1st. So instead of the normal 6.2%, they would pay back 12.4% starting January 1st. So in reality, it's a temporary loan that is going to have to be paid back, and they'd be forced to pay it back. So at this point, we're keeping status quo. We do have it on the agenda for the September 25th admin finance meeting. We're going to talk about it a little bit more and see if there's any change in direction from admin finance. But I just wanted to let you guys know. And we do about a monthly call with local employers, a lot of the community stakeholder businesses. And in that call, we asked who, if any of them were going to be following this, and the response was pretty much no one was going to be that we had talked to at that point in time. Gunderson did say that they were waiting for some additional legal guidance, but nobody responded that they were following it. So just so you're aware of that, we are addressing it, we are handling it, and we're keeping status quo at this point. I've had a lot of coordination meetings regarding the building project. Right now, the footings are a couple weeks behind schedule. They've ran into some issues there. We're going to work with the committee at the next committee meeting next week. We did have the TIF review with Rome. The TIF district in Rome is doing exceptionally well. So they're looking at, right now, the plan would be to close the TIF district a couple of years early, which is very positive for everyone. And then we had a nuisance complaint that came in against a property, and there was numerous complaints that affected multiple departments. I just want to give a thank you for the positive cooperation and coordination efforts that we had from all of our departments that were involved: the Sheriff's Department, Planning and Zoning, Public Health, CPS, Corp Council, and I believe Adult Protection also got involved in this from HHS. It was all handled very quickly. The issues were addressed quickly, and it all got resolved. So just wanted to make everybody aware of that. On the budget side of things, Kyle and I have met with every department over the last 2 weeks. Pretty much every day has been solid budget meetings. Met with the last ones today and got that wrapped up. So we do have a few things that are still hanging out there. We've got a few more cuts to make. We did make numerous changes to budgets. When we started after the initial budget requests from departments, we were about $471,000 over what we had available to spend. So we're cutting those down and making some changes to revenue projections based on history. And we'll talk about them at admin finance, and then ultimately we'll bring it back to your committees. So any changes that have been made to your budgets, we've went over with your department heads, so they're aware of what's being changed. There's probably 1 or 2 changes that we're making or recommending that will be in my final budget back to admin finance that there may be some issues with. So we'll talk through that not only with the appropriate committee, but also with admin finance. So the concerns raised by the department heads are also known. So see, we're still working on tracking COVID expenses. The next round of reimbursement actually was today. So that submittal went in. It was about another $30,000 in reimbursements that'll come back to Adams County out of the CARES funding. Land and Water is still working on getting the dam fixed and the car accident at the dam. We're trying to get a contractor lined up to get out there and get that fence replaced. The insurance company was holding us up. We finally got that all straightened out. So now he's got the green light to try to find someone to fit it into the schedule so we can get the snow fence down and get an actual fence put back up. Maintenance is still working on the cleaning. We've got them pretty much focused on that right now and maintaining our PPE supplies. We're coordinating efforts during moving projects. We've got the HVAC at the community center. That project is in punch list stage, so just getting finalized at this point in time. And we're going to have Bill transition over to solid waste and help finalize that project. We've probably got about a month and a half, 2 months of work left out there. So the building side of it's nearing completion, and with solid waste director Miller turning in her resignation, we're going to have Bill finalize that project and work with some of the staff out there and some of the admin staff to help make sure that everything gets done as what is in the plans. And then some of the staff will work with the equipment contractors to make sure the equipment's placed properly. They're kind of covered the solid waste. We have a meeting tomorrow with the committee chair, myself, some of the members of the admin committee, or the admin staff. And we're going to start the process of doing interim. We're going to look at, instead of appointing someone just because the staff is newer out there, we're going to look at just doing it management by committee to make sure we catch everything. The progress on the MRF is going along really well. Like I said, they hopefully should be putting equipment in the next week or so. Ad hoc building project overall is still on schedule, but the footings are a little behind at this point. So we're going to work with the committee on that. There may be a change order that's needed for that. The front steps have been removed. We met out there last week with the Veterans Memorial Committee. They're going to be looking at possibly spring. They're hoping early spring, but more likely probably late spring, depending on what kind of weather we have, of beginning the process of constructing the memorial. So we met with their engineer. Everything looks good. We did leave the old footings in place. There were some footings there that we didn't know about. And the engineer is going to actually work them into the design of the memorial. So it works out good. Hopefully should be some cost savings for the memorial construction. And definitely, we didn't want to remove them given the fact that they're 10 to 12 feet long and 4 to 5 feet deep. And then they have footings under those as well. So we decided to leave those in place, and it should work out well with what the veterans group wants to do with that memorial. So unless you have any questions for me, I'll turn it over to Leah.
One question.
Yes.
As far as the stairs go, what did that wall look like once you took those old stairs out? Was it pretty good that we don't have to worry about doing anything to it?
So what we're gonna do, the wall, obviously it's had concrete and everything against it. So there's some breakdown of it, but overall it's in pretty good shape. Some of the grout obviously has kind of eroded away in some areas, and some of the brick has fallen off. So we talked with the engineer, and the engineer's plan, you've got the piers that stick out. So the plan is to take and put the memorial up tight against those piers on the areas that they stick out, and then do a top or a cap that would run alongside the memorial and would connect up to the building, so that gap would stay there. So the intention at this point is not to do anything to that brick. We will probably do some cleanup of the brick on the sides where it sticks out to make it look appealing again. And that should be a nominal cost.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, this is Ricky. I have a question for Bradley. On the solid waste, I see there's another design error. Is that costing us more money, and is the engineer company picking it up? The engineering company is Aaron's, right? Aaron's?
No, the engineer company on this is SCS.
Okay.
And we are tracking those and working with legal counsel on how to recoup those costs.
I have one more question. I listened to the solid waste last week, and they mentioned this pipe that needs to put in the first site. Is there other sites that are going to have that same sort of engineering done to put a pipe in?
Yep. So that's a different project. That was oversight by we believe heirs, and that's what we need to talk to heirs about. They are working on that. Either way, it would have been a cost that we would have had because it's a statutory requirement. So we're working on that. We do have that in this budget, in the 2021 budget. So hopefully we'll have it addressed, but it will have to be in all of our future plans as we look at closing these cells out.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Casey, this is Jody Shapey. Where would I direct the public to go to view the building plans?
Right on our main website, the building plans for the building project.
Right.
Yep. So I believe right on the main website, we have a link to the building project if that's still there, or they can just send an email and request it if they would like.
Okay. Thank you. Also, on your Social Security withholding, if that is not done and it becomes something that is enacted, how would the county have to address that? I know that you mentioned that if they did it and it fell through, the employees would have to pay it back, but what is the flip side to that?
We do not know. That's kind of the analysis by Von Briesen. There's no indication that it's even enforceable, and that's part of the problem here. So if we and part of the concern is if we were to withhold, and this goes for any employer across the United States that decides to follow the memorandum put out by the president, is that if the employee turns around and leaves, the employer is still on the hook to pay that 6.2%. So they may not even have an employee earning wages to withhold it from come January. So it creates a huge liability for us. If that's something, if it has to get addressed later, it might be something so that if they do enact it after the fact and we withheld it, it'd simply be a refund from Social Security, I'm guessing.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. Yeah, because either way, the county's not going to hold the money. We're going to send it like we always do. And we send it every 2 weeks when payroll's done. Any other questions for me? All right, just before Leah starts here, we do have 3 different staff members that have tested positive for COVID in a couple different departments. We will not disclose what departments those employees work with. Obviously, we will not disclose what employees have tested positive. So please refrain from asking that of Leah. We will not disclose that. Legal counsel's on. Mindy Dale, if anyone has questions about why we won't disclose that, but for obvious reasons, we're a very small county. It's easy to identify who that may be or who that employee may be. So we're not going to get into that at all. So with that, I will turn it over to Leah. I believe she's on.
I am. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. So COVID update, by the numbers, we are at a 176 total positive cases in Adams County. We have 30 active cases currently with 55 contact investigations attached to those 30 active cases. Again, remembering that an individual who has contacts outside of the county, we send those to the jurisdiction of that contact's home residence. So these are only Adams County residents that we follow under our jurisdiction. We have 6 investigations that we are currently working on as far as employee, business, and event investigations go. Some of those, as you are aware, are in need of a public notification. So again, we complete a public notification when we are unable to work with the establishment or business to identify all known contacts of that individual. So we may have a business that works with us. They have staff that are testing positive, but through contact tracing, we are able to identify all of the individuals who are at risk for an exposure, and we are able to quarantine those individuals. In the event that that is not possible, a public notification is warranted and necessary in order to increase that knowledge for those in the community that may have been exposed and at risk. Our last 2 weeks have been our highest number of cases in Adams County. So last week we had 19 total cases, and the week prior to that we had 34 cases. So those are our 2 highest since March when we began our COVID-19 journey. As far as ages go, again, we post all the data on the county website, but we continue to have the highest amount of cases in our 61 to 70 age group, with 19% of our cases, followed very closely by our 21 to 30-year-old age group at 18.3%. And if you remember, even a month ago, that was significantly different. Most of our cases were in that 61 to 70 age group, at about 35% of our cases. So it is continuing to spread through the community, across ages, across all parts of the community. We obviously worked closely with the school district to get school started. We have, I hope, good plans in place as far as coordination when cases occur within the district, and being able to notify families that are affected quickly, and be able to complete that contact tracing. And the school has been tracking things very closely. In the event that there is a positive case, we can quickly identify that and place our mitigation practices in place, in order to secure as many people in the school that are affected as possible, to hopefully limit that spread, in order to keep school going as long as we can here. We continue to have a growing issue with individuals refusing to disclose their contact or not providing us with complete contact information, which is one of the reasons we continue to educate the public on the need for general prevention measures. Again, there's many people who are asymptomatic. There are many people who are close contacts and are not able to be identified because that information is not provided to us, and we can only respond to what information we are given. So again, the general protocols of making sure everyone's following social distancing, washing hands, wearing a cloth face covering, staying home when you're sick, continues to be very important. We have an additional National Guard testing site that will occur at the Adams Fire Department next Wednesday, the 23rd. And then we also had the Rome Fire Department complete a grant with us in order for them to expand testing in that area as well. And public health will also begin doing testing in order to fulfill that gap for individuals who need quickly to be tested. We're working closely with Aspirus and Gunderson, especially on testing, but also on how to get students back into school as quickly as possible. So obviously when there is a positive case or a known contact, we complete isolation and quarantine in those situations. However, there's students who are sick. Kids get sick frequently. We know that is not going to go away. But the school is following proper guidelines as far as exclusion for children and staff who are symptomatic, and then making sure that they're getting tested or receiving an alternative diagnosis. So for instance, if an individual has a fever and a sore throat, that could be COVID, but it could also be strep throat. So making sure that they're being assessed appropriately by a healthcare provider in order to get treated quickly, because obviously we want people to have the care that they need, but also get back to school as soon as possible. And we don't want to mistreat cases of, for instance, strep throat wouldn't require the family to quarantine. However, a COVID diagnosis would. We want to make sure that we're doing our best as far as ensuring that we are following individuals as closely as possible for the right purposes and reasons. There's a lot of information about antibody testing. So the skilled nursing facility will begin their antibody testing There's also information that will be coming out for schools to begin antibody testing. So that is a point of care test. You get results within 15 minutes. However, the sensitivity of those tests is very unknown still. So we still need to make sure that we're doing our due diligence as far as following up when we need to with additional testing to ensure that the cases are positive or negative. There's a lot of questions in the community about false positives and what that looks like. But we work really closely to identify when the lab has a risk for a false positive and what that looks like. So one of the things that we've worked with many labs on is when a false positive would be at risk, would be an entire batch of samples would be a false positive. So we're able to then identify, utilizing the lab epidemiologists, if that truly is the case, because we want to make sure that that's not something that we're treating as a case when it doesn't necessarily meet the case definition. We have not had a situation where a false positive occurred. We have people who question those lab results because we've had a number of cases where an individual was a close contact. They were tested too soon in their quarantine period, so they had a negative lab, and then 2 days later they test positive. So then they question the efficacy of that result. So we make sure that we work through that very closely to identify when there's a chance for a false positive, and working through that to ensure that that's not the case. Otherwise, I think that's about as much of an update I have. We are continuing to stay very busy with our contact tracing and all of our other responsibilities as far as what we're required to do with COVID-19, and now starting to plan for when a vaccine arrives and how we can distribute that quickly and swiftly to the community in a safe manner where we are not contributing to the spread of COVID-19. So if with that, I'll take any questions if you have any.
Leah, this is Supervisor Hickett here. I have a question for you. Is Wisconsin generally seeing a spike right now in
Yes.
COVID cases?
Yep. So across the state, there's a significant spike. Obviously, we've seen what the universities have been experiencing, but in general, we've had positive increases in a spike as far as cases across the state goes.
Thanks.
Yep.
This is Paul Piccolini. Yeah, Leah, I'm in Rome, and we've had quite a couple businesses up here that had a problem. And I noticed at the beginning of summer, there wasn't a problem here. Do you think the influx of people coming from out of our county into here for recreation is part of the problem that we went up?
Definitely.
I can't say definitively whether or not that's the case. When we track back to where the spread is, sometimes we're not able to identify where that individual may have been exposed, but that doesn't seem to be the case with most of our cases, that it's being transmitted locally seems to be what most of our cases are, the origin being.
Right. I was just wondering if, considering that cases have gone up, if that was part of the problem, because I know we, especially in Rome, we have a big influx of people coming up from out of the state or out of the county up here. And I was just wondering if they might have helped, spread it a little bit too. So I didn't know if that was the case or not. I appreciate you giving me the answer.
No problem.
I'm from south of Rome. So, question on numbers. Can you hear me all right?
Yes, kind of.
Yeah.
You're kind of breaking up.
I can do. How many I can't help it. How many fatalities have we had in the county? Can they that have been attributed to the COVID? Were they contributed entirely to COVID, or could there have been some extenuating circumstances? And then one more question is, of all these cases that have tested positive,
Lost you, Bob.
The last little bit didn't come through, Supervisor Gabarski. Oh. Well, I didn't hear the last part.
I'll take the first part. Maybe he can.
All right.
Oh.
Leo, was you able to get that? The last part had to do with of those cases that have tested positive. Do we currently have any of those cases hospitalized?
Sure. Okay, so we've had 3 deaths so far in Adams County. I can tell you that one of the cases, there were no underlying health conditions reported. That doesn't necessarily mean the person didn't have underlying health conditions, but that was not indicated. The other 2 fatalities did have additional underlying health conditions, but not necessarily, one of the cases was not necessarily the underlying health condition wouldn't have caused the death. So I don't know if that answers your question. I know there's been a lot of discussion around contributing factors and what that looks like as far as deaths related to COVID, and the CDC changing that reporting number and figure to include other factors and other underlying health conditions. Remembering that just because an individual has an underlying health condition such as diabetes, that doesn't mean that individual would die at that time if there wasn't some, for instance, if they wouldn't have contracted COVID.
Okay.
The other part of your question in regards to the number of hospitalizations we have currently of the positive cases, the active cases that we have, current hospitalizations, we are at 4.
Okay, thank you. That's enough. That's fine. I appreciate it. Thanks.
Yep, no problem.
Leah or Casey, this is Dave Zelensky. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So here's my question. What is the threshold for sending out those notices that say, if you were at this place at a certain time, you might have been exposed? For example, with the staff, county staff having it, I'm assuming we'd be contacted if we sat in a meeting next to them. But you know, at what point do you say if you've been in this office, you've been exposed? Does that make sense?
Yes, makes perfect sense. So we utilize the definition of a close contact. So that's similar to the CDC and the Wisconsin, it's the same as CDC and Wisconsin Department of Health Services. So a close contact would be anyone who was within 15 feet, or excuse me, 6 feet of an individual for more than 15 minutes. And we take that in accumulation. So for instance, if you have an 8-hour workday and you're in contact with, in close proximity with a person for 5 minutes, and then another 5 minutes, and then later on another 5 minutes, that would be a 15-minute time frame. And we would identify that as a high risk close contact scenario where we would contact that individual of the positive case. Additional metrics we utilize are any physical touch. So a handshake, a high five, a physical hug, any type of where you're actually touching the other individual. And then also any touching of soiled items. So Kleenexes, daycare settings, bibs, all of those types of things where individuals have their saliva or mucus on a item and you touch it, we would consider that a high risk exposure. So went through our disease investigation when we're speaking with the positive case, we go through all of that and then ask them who their cases of contacts are. So then we work through all of that. We work with their employer. We always gain consent to work with the employer to identify, just as you said, any coworkers or meetings that they had been in that may have exposed additional people. And then in the event where they are unable to, so say they are at a bar and they aren't sure of all the people that they were in contact with, we work with the business to provide that public notification when necessary.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, you're welcome.
That does.
Any other questions?
Okay, thank you.
All right. Yeah, thank you, Leah. And as many of you realize, this has pretty much been a 7-day-a-week thing for Leah and her staff since February. So thank you, Leah, for all your hard work and your staff's hard work. There really hasn't been any break at all. So we're getting emails and contacts from them on Saturdays, Sundays, holidays, everything. So we do appreciate it. It's obviously getting a lot worse. I believe last week, Adams County was listed as the 8th highest in the spread rate in the state of Wisconsin. Is that correct? Yep. Did we lose Leah?
No, you're correct on that.
Okay. So we're one of the highest. It looks like it's going higher this week. So it's not getting better. It's getting much worse. So thank you, Leah, and thank you to your staff for all your hard work. We appreciate it.
We appreciate that. Thank you.
Unless anybody has any questions for me, that's all I have for my report. Thank you.
Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to on the agenda. We have the committee minutes in the report, in the agenda. Are there any questions on any of the minutes?
I have some questions.
Okay,
Jody Shapey. Sorry, yes, Jody Shapey. Okay. Hold on. In regards to the highway minutes, hold on, sorry, I'm getting to them. It has on your public participation on the agenda items. And I was just curious, in regards to the town of Easton and County Trunk H, was there any ability for the public to participate in that meeting?
Yes,
Supervisor Hamburg.
I could not hear her. I'm getting feedback. Would you mind repeating your question? Sure.
I didn't hear you, Mark.
Sure. Mark, on the public meeting minutes, it mentions on the agenda items.
And was there any way for the notification for public participation?
And was there any way for the notification for public?
This is Gordy. Yes, there was, and there was public participation on that agenda.
Besides Eric Edwards.
I didn't hear you.
Sorry. Put this on or leave it off. I'm so sorry, you guys. Besides Eric Edwards.
Yeah. Yes, there was, because Brett York was on there also.
Were the people on the committee aware that the town board of Easton and many of the constituents feel that this route is not a good thing when they voted? So, Town of Easton chair, the two supervisors, and many constituents in the town of Easton are not in favor of this newly proposed route that was rejected in 2019. Was the committee aware of that?
I'm not sure. Mark, do you remember what that was?
I don't recall what it was, but I would like to ask Judy, where's your desk? I mean, how do we know that's not hearsay?
Okay. So I called Craig Willey, the town chair, heard from him directly. He's against. I talked with Marty. I can't remember his last name. He's a supervisor. He is against. I talked with Judy Berry personally. All of these personal conversations, she is against. I have talked with constituents that are very concerned with the safety of that intersection and the fact that the only business that is going to be opened by putting that route into place is the Lions Club, which they don't want ATV or UTV traffic there. So my question is, was the committee aware of all of these concerns when they went to vote this through?
We did not have any comment or anything from any of the town of Easton there at that time.
Gordy, this is Casey.
Yeah.
Doesn't that permit application have to get approved by the township before it comes to the committee?
The answer to that is yes.
Yes.
I believe Supervisor Shapey that even though those people might not agree to it now,
John,
I believe it was
recognize
approved
Pete?
beforehand.
No.
It has to be approved by the municipality before it can even come to the highway committee.
I do think, Casey, that it was approved in 2019 and subsequently rejected due to a variety of things, one being the safety issue. So I don't know if that would still be considered a technical approval because of the rejection. And then the appeal again by Eric Edwards. It didn't come again before Town of Easton, I'll guarantee it. I go to all those meetings.
Yeah, that I couldn't tell you, but I know it had to be approved to get to highway committee, but what year it was approved, that I couldn't tell you.
I guess I'd be concerned with that.
Supervisor Scott Pease wants to be recognized. Go ahead, Scott.
Me and Supervisor Bork rejected this at the committee for the basic fact that it says in our 2020 ATV UTV route designation policy on line 64, I'll read it verbatim, and we had an alternate route for this. Have alternate routes been investigating, leaving no other practical options other than the use of the county highway? We proposed an alternate route, and the committee still voted for it.
Supervisor Pease, I also think an alternative route is currently accessible, and that's Evergreen. So I guess I agree with you. I was looking at the ordinance. An alternate route actually already exists. There are safety issues. I think we're adding to problems of safety by opening up that route for the intersection. And again, the only access to the business that's on that route is the Lions Club, and they don't want it. So I question why in the world we would open that route and open that possible safety issue I just don't understand it.
Mr. Chairman?
Excuse me, yeah. Just,
That'd be recognized.
just wait, Supervisor Hamburg. I know Supervisor Bradley was on there, and I know this discussion is going more on discussing the ordinance than discussing the minutes.
Right.
And I understand.
Exactly. That's what I was going to point out.
Yeah. So I mean,
Okay.
I understand
and
your
fine.
question.
I'll bring it up there too.
Right.
But as I'm looking at this, it does mention the Lions Club, and and so I'm sorry.
All right. That's okay.
You
That's
never
okay.
know where
That's
to
okay.
come in with questions, so
Yeah.
I can wait
Yeah.
till the ordinance.
Yeah, since that is on the agenda, let's discuss that part there. So, did you have any other questions on minutes then, Supervisor Shapey?
Well, I guess the question I had was the board aware of this when they made their determination to pass it through to the county board about the fact of the town of Easton supervisors and board and whatnot? So
yeah, so we can discuss that later. So.
I can say I did not.
Okay. So, is there any other questions on minutes that anybody would have? Okay, then we'll move on then on the agenda to the ordinance number 19. Clerk, please read.
Ordinance 19-2020, amendment to ATV, UTV highway crossing routes. Recommended for enactment by the Highway Committee this 13th day of August 2020. Carlson, Baroud, Bork, Gilner, SP.
Do I have a motion to enact?
Mr. Chairman, I would like to have this go back to committee.
Okay. Supervisor Carlson would like to have the ordinance go back to committee at this time. So that's a form of a motion? Okay.
Yes, it is.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay. Motion by Supervisor Carlson, second by Baroud. Corp Counsel was wondering, is that debatable? I know I don't have my little card with me.
I don't think a motion to remove it from the table is debatable, is it?
No. It is from Mindy. She said yes. So, okay. So so we got the motion to send it back to committee. Any discussion or questions?
Well, this is Supervisor Hickory. I have a question. We're sending it back to committee to review that one particular issue? Or that one particular modification in Easton? Because my concern, my concern is that it seems to me that putting all these routes in front of us, which have expanded rapidly, one of my concerns is that we don't seem to have any safety issues in place. I mean, there's these ATVs don't seem to have, we don't require any liability. I don't know if we require a driver's license. I just think that we need to look at the safety issues surrounding these and what we want to do as a county. So I would ask the committee to consider that also.
Okay. Supervisor Hamburg.
Thank you. If I can address, starting to begin with Mr. Hickett there, when the ad hoc ATV committee was initially started, we had representation from the DNR, the Sheriff's Department, as well as various active clubs. And safety, in my opinion, was one of the #1 issues. Even though I was on the ATV committee, I don't ride. I don't own one. But I think it's the right thing to do for the county. Yes, there are issues for the committee that can we have more stringent rules or laws than what the state. For an example, one that's been discussed was open intoxicants. The state allows you to drive with an open intoxicant. If we would pass that in our ordinance, we would be unable to enforce it. We could give you a ticket. If you didn't pay it, we would not have any authority to enforce it. With that being said, I'd like to address the county board as a whole. Okay, but my opinion is the county board as a whole. One of the things that the ad hoc committee initially did was we wanted the power into the hands of the local residents and the townships. And I still very, very firmly believe that the local government should have a voice. Part of this was passed unanimously by the Jackson Township. And Mr. Baroud is a member of that township and conveyed that at our Highway Committee meeting. This is kind of a blind side that we do have objection from Easton. I was unaware of at the time that this was a 2019 application. So that part of the ATV application, I would like to go back before the township and see what the opinion is. My opinion is I don't think the county should rule local government. If local government wants the roads open, I think the power belongs into the taxpayers' hands and the people that live there. So Jody, I'll support your recommendation, pull it from the table, but please keep that in mind. The ad hoc committee is in the interest of the people that live there. I do believe it's a benefit economically for the county.
Mark, if I can respond to that 1 sec, I appreciate those thoughts. My concern is that the ad hoc committee also represents the county as a whole and has that responsibility. My biggest concern is there are several counties, of course, in the state that do have much more stringent rules than we have. And there are many, I mean, a number of counties do. So it isn't unusual for that to happen. I'm just concerned that if you have open intoxicants and you have no liability requirement to have any liability insurance and aren't required to have a valid driver's license, those are safety issues that I think need to be addressed countywide. And I don't think that has to go back to every single township. I think the county can address that. But regardless, I appreciate your concerns, and I'll send it back to committee.
Excuse me, am I allowed to talk on this topic?
Not until the board gets done.
And sign up to talk.
And Supervisor Shapey had her hand up. No.
Go ahead.
And I think. Go ahead, Supervisor Shapey.
I was just curious. I had heard that the ad hoc committee for the ATV, UTV is on hold right now due to this COVID. So how is this information getting exchanged?
The committee is still meeting just like our other committees are. No, they're not. So,
Mr. West, I can answer that. We have an ordinance in place for ATVs right now. The ad hoc committee
lost it.
When we have requests, and the key word is practically. You know, that I don't want to get into that end of it, but all the ad hoc committee, ATV committee is going to do is to tweak the original ordinance that we have. This debate is not about whether we're going to have ATVs in our county or not. They're here, and I would hope they're here to stay. The committee is to make the ordinance stronger, better, and in all aspects safer as well. Yes, we have canceled our meeting because of COVID. I highly recommend that we put it back together in October or November. But currently we have an ordinance in place right now that allows for that. And once again, that ordinance says the power begins with the townships. That's where the power of that ordinance lies.
Right, and this discussion is going on, and I think the motion, where we should be discussing is the motion to table it. and stay on that. And so, I mean, if any comments from now on, please.
I just have one comment.
Toward that. Yes, Supervisor Pizzolini.
Yeah, I didn't notice the sheriff sign off on this. Is the sheriff signed off on it? Because if it's a safety issue, he's got to be involved.
Well, and that'll come back when we discuss it. So, I mean, when it comes back, right now it's just, is it going to go back to the committee and or not? So I think that'll be something that we'll make sure that that's on there. And I saw something that he had signed off on, so there was a concern there. So.
Okay, real good. I didn't see it on the proposal. I mean, on the ordinance.
Okay. Supervisor Gabarsky?
I don't know if this is appropriate or not, but is it time to review that ordinance?
We're not going to discuss that now. So, but it can be something that we can have on there, right? So
sure. Okay.
That we could, if we think that's it. Any other comments on any other comments on tabling? Or council, please.
Yeah, just a question. Is the motion to table or to refer the entire ordinance back to the committee, or just the one road?
The application, this new amendment to the ordinance.
So all the roads that are listed.
Yes, and it would be the ones in what was coming currently forward right now. So.
Okay.
So.
Is it possible to separate them?
I'd like to make a comment. I think what's happening here is a lot of these townships, I'm for ATV, UTV. All these townships pass their roads in their townships, thinking that all their side roads, and the county has county roads, and they aren't going to say that they're going to allow all roads, the town roads, county trunk roads, to be passed. It's going to go to the highway committee or to the board as a full, as everybody. So I think every route that you're going to go on our county trunk roads should go before them first and then come to us.
So, okay. So we had the motion to table, and that's what we're voting on. And I know there was public participation signed up on this, but since the ordinance will not be taken up right now, and it will come back at a later meeting, that's when we'll have the public participation. So, okay? Okay. So we had the motion to table. All in favor signify by saying aye and raise your hands.
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
Against? Supervisor Hamburg? Okay. So the motion passes with Supervisor Hamburg in objection. So the county clerk would please note that. So move on then to ordinance number 20. Clerk, please read.
Ordinance 2020, rezoning request of a portion of a parcel 5 acres from A135 to A3 on property located in the north 1/2 of south 1/2 of northwest 1/4, section 15, township 17 north, range 6 east, town of Adams, Adams County, Wisconsin.
To have motion and act by Supervisor Gilner. Was that you, Supervisor Gilner, that I heard, or was it somebody else? Move to approve by Supervisor Gilner. Do I have a second? Second by Supervisor Paler. Okay. We have ordinance number 20 on the table. Any discussion or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye and raise a hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Against, same sign.
Yes.
Okay. Ordinance number 20 is enacted. Clerk, please read ordinance number 21.
Ordinance 21-2020, rezoning request of a parcel 30 acres from A135 to A115 on property located in the northeast 1/4 of Northeast 1/4, Section 35, Township 16 North, Range 6 East, Town of Easton, Adams County, Wisconsin. Recommended for enactment by the Adams County Planning and Zoning Committee on the second day of September 2020. Morgan, Gilner, Thiessen, Shapey, Knock-Reiner, Quick.
Motion to act by Supervisor Gilner.
Second.
Second. Second by Supervisor Morgan. Is that correct, Supervisor Morgan? Okay. We have ordinance number 21 on the floor. Any discussion or questions?
We can't hear you.
How come we're getting so little information? I'm wondering why we do not get the same amount of information we used to get to, like the maps and things like that. It's hard to visualize what we're actually proving.
I think what he's trying to say, Cheryl,
or more information. And we used to get all that in packets, and now we're down to one page.
No, the attachments are there. If you look under.
You have to click on the ordinance to get the ordinance, and then you click on the verbiage behind the ordinance, and that will get you the attachments. Okay. Does that answer your question, Supervisor?
I agree with.
Okay. I agree with that before. Thank you.
Okay.
Yes,
if we could have it in paper form, I know we're trying to get away from that, but for us to see that parcel in front of us at the meeting, I mean, we can look at it at home, but if there's questions and you want to see it in front of you, you got to have another computer with you.
You can split screens.
You can just pull that up right next to it.
Turn it sideways.
So, okay. Any other discussions on ordinance number 21 at this time? And that's one of the things, I mean, and if we can start helping with more training for supervisors, we can, you know, try to make this easier for all of us. So, okay, seeing none, no more questions on ordinance number 21. All those in favor signify by saying aye and raise your hands.
Aye.
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 Against?
20 yes.
Ordinance number 21 is enacted. When the clerk is ready, we'll move on to ordinance number 22.
Ordinance 22-2020, rezoning request of parts of two parcels from A135 to A3 and R2 to A3 on property located in the northeast 1/4 of Southeast 1/4 and Southeast 1/4 of Northeast 1/4, Section 34, Township 14 North, Range 7 East, CSM 4276, Town of New Haven, Adams County, Wisconsin. Recommended for enactment by the Adams County Planning and Zoning Committee on this second day of September 2020. Morgan, Gilner, Thiessen, Shapey, Knock-Reiner, Quick.
Do I have a motion to enact?
Quick, District 5.
Okay.
Move to enact.
Supervisor Quick, and a second by Supervisor Gilner. We have ordinance number 22 on the table. Any discussion or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye and raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye. Against?
20 yes.
Okay. Ordinance number 22 is enacted. We'll move on to ordinance number 23. When the clerk is ready, please read.
Ordinance 23-2020, rezoning request of a portion of a parcel 5.6 acres from A3 to R1LL on property located in the southeast 1/4 of northeast 1/4 and northeast 1/4 of southeast 1/4, section 36, township 14 north, range 7 east, lot 2 of CSM 5791, town of New Haven, Adams County, Wisconsin, recommended for enactment by the Adams County Planning and Zoning Committee on this second day of September 2020. Morgan, Gilner, Thiessen, Shapey, Knock, Reiner, Quick.
Motion to enact by Supervisor Hamburg, second by Supervisor Gilner. Any discussion or questions? Okay. Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye and raise of hands.
Aye.
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 Against, same sign.
20 yes.
Okay. Ordinance number 23 is enacted. We have no resolutions or denials or petitions. Do I have a motion to approve the claims previously read? Supervisor Bork, do I have a second? Supervisor Shapey, all in favor signify by saying aye. Raise of hands.
Aye.
Against? Claims are approved. Clerk, please read per diem and mileage.
Allen 50, Bork 6150, Rude 7875, Carlson 50, Edwards 50, Gilner 7875, Grabarski 50, Hamburg 8220, Hickover 50, Morgan 50, Ness 50, RP's 50, SP's 50, Pizzolini 50, Paler 6944, Quick 6967, Shapey 50, West 50, Zelinski 50, total $1,090.31.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve the per diem and mileage? Supervisor Grabarski, second. Okay, second by Supervisor Hickether. Any discussion or questions? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Against? Per diem and mileage are approved. Supervisor Allen?
I'd like to make a motion for the county clerk to correct any and all errors and to read back to the next county board meeting if so requested.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Supervisor Carlson. All in favor? Signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion is approved. Next meeting date, October
13.
14th? No, not 14th, is it? 13th?
13th.
13th. 20th. 20th. What?
It's the second Tuesday.
Third Tuesday is the 20th.
Casey said October's meeting will be the second Tuesday as well as the November meeting.
As part of the budget schedule.
Yep.
Okay.
What time on the 13th then?
Is everybody able to make that? 13th? Yeah.
Yep.
It's 6 o'clock, normal time? Or are there town board meetings that night?
Normally.
Yeah, we will have one.
So, what time are the town board meetings that night?
Ours is 6:30. We'll change.
6:30. So 6 o'clock should we schedule?
Sure.
Okay, 6 o'clock? Same time? Okay. Oh, I lost my, okay, otherwise, so next meeting date's, October 13th, so meeting is adjourned at, 7:18 then, so thank you all for attending, so have a good, week, so, bye.
Bye.
All right.